Well, that is a hell of a way to announce your presence with an authority, is it not? New head coach Mike Macdonald in his first action here with the Seahawks helps to outgun, outduel offensive mastermind or supposed offensive mastermind Sean Payton 26-20 in a game that was very much a dogfight and was nowhere near certain until really the very end. Luckily, though, the Hawks were able to come out in that victory formation, and there's a lot of impressive parts of this game to turn over, but none more so than this Seahawks defense. When we got Mike Macdonald, we were all wondering, how long is this going to take? It's going to be half the season. It's going to be the whole season. We're going from some of the most simplified concepts on this side of the ball in previous years to now some of the most complicated. You would think there would be some time that would take to transition in that way. Not the case today. It would seem to be a seamless transition at that, as this defense from start to finish was as impressive in their performance as I think of just about anything we've seen in recent memory. Was it ultimately completely just dominant? No, but you've got to consider a little bit of the degree of difficulty this defense was up against today. Right from the start, G and the boys come out on the field. There's quick pressure. He gets sacked, comes back, trying to push the ball down the football field, throws an interception. You got your defense now in a short field. Do they give up a touchdown? No, only a field goal. And this kind of thing continued then throughout the game in a variety of different places. Your offense had not one, but two safeties on the day. Not only putting the defense back on the field quickly after they had just got a stop, but also putting them on a short field at that. And then you've got your punt returner, who had an absolutely nightmarish day. Just, avert your eyes kind of day. And he's under it. He muffs the punt. That's going to happen. But then he tries to pick it up, can't pick it up, slips out of it like it's been greased up. They get the ball back immediately there, again after your defense just got to stop, and yet your defense comes back on the field and holds the line. There were so many times today that they were put up with their back against the wall, and yet they were able to remain strong and keep that ground steady until the offense and special teams could eventually make their share of plays to help for this win to happen. But for this defense to be this good in the first performance for Mike Macdonald as a head coach, I just think this is damn impressive on his part to be able to onboard this so far, so fast. When he was going to the Ravens defense and he was taking them from here to there, it was a scheme that was very similar, very like. So the transitional phase that was there was one where it wasn't as big a leap. Here, he's taking a leap from one planet to the next as far as conceptually goes, and he's doing it so easily and so fluidly out the gate. There's going to be bigger challenges down the road. There's going to be better offenses we're going to face. We're not always going to get to play at home. I will acknowledge that. But for the first game, for that defense from end to end to be so stout, to be so strong, and to perform so well was just outstanding. And it was in all kind of phases that you got to feel from that defense today. You got the stacked boxes. You got the creative blitzes there where you'll get free rushers coming and they'll be unblocked. You got the tighter coverage on the back end, press coverage, man coverage concepts. All of that was sprinkled in. But at the forefront, I think, of the most impressive part about this defense today that stood out to me, the tackling. Over the past few years, the tackling has just continually gotten worse and worse and worse, like a gas tank just draining the fuel out. And you would have plays where you'd have not one, not two, not three, not four, but like 5 missed tackles on just a single play. Today, there might have been 1 or 2 missed tackles over the course of the whole game. And it was to a man down the line. It wasn't one individual out there tackling everybody in sight. Everybody was being really stout in what they were doing as far as asking that tackling component of things, especially with the Broncos really trying to hit some of the short routes and you having to rally up and make those tackles, not allowing any yak. And they were so good on that throughout this day. You could go to every man in this defense and everybody held up in that way. And it really stood out as a night and day difference from what we've seen from this defense prior. Julian Love was fantastic, showing you why the Seahawks rewarded him here in training camp with a contract extension. He led the team in tackles. He was all over the place. He had a lot of those notable tackles of like the type I talk about where a guy makes a catch. He looks like he's got some space to work with after the catch. Suddenly Love comes zooming off screen up there, cuts him down. It's like a yard or 2 gain that they've gotten, or a 4-yard gain overall in a real quick short pass. He had about 3 of those plays, including one that he was able to get on a tackle for a loss, but he was outstanding in this game, capping it as well with an interception over in the back corner where the Broncos were threatening to score, a play where he's got to get his toes down, and a very impressive play at that as he jumps the route. And he also had a fumble caused early in the game on a nice hit, and there was some hitting there from your Seahawks today. He was almost able to, though, cause the turnover there to get the hot ball back for Seahawks. He was great in this game. He was playing awesome out there and showing you again why they reward him with that contract. His running mate, Jenkins, was almost as equally strong. good as a run defender, good as a tackler, showed up a little bit as a blitzer. You could go with everybody on that defensive line and kind of point to him. Leonard Williams, 5 quarterback hits in this game. He was good against the run as well. He was stout throughout the whole course of the game. I thought both of your 2 starting edges in Hall and Mafe were equally good. Both notched a sack in this game. Both showed a lot of high effort, high energy kind of mix to them. Byron Murphy wasn't able to have as much necessarily statistical impact, but he was rocking a lot of the nose tackle, and so down there kind of in that nose position, taking on the double teams and not being moved in that way. 25 carries, 99 yards in this game from the Broncos in the run game, and a lot of that souped up, by the way, on 5 carries for 35 yards by Bo Nix, which were just broken plays as a quarterback that he's out there scrambling on. So not a lot to be taken away from that. You were really good at first stopping the run, turning them one-dimensional, and then you did not let them hit you deep down the field. Nix kept going to check down city all throughout the day. It was bubble screens, it was throws to the flat, it was little in routes underneath. That's all that they were going to go to really outside of a couple of throws. And the Seahawks did a really good job of just cinching down everything on the coverage out there, everybody to a man. The linebackers were outstanding. Dodson looked like at least a Pro Bowler out there. He showed you the full, well-rounded skill set that he brings to play here from Buffalo. This is a kid on the rise. This is a kid who's just hitting his top end, and he gives you everything in his ability on the football field. Is he a star in any one area of his game? No. But is he upwardly solid all the way down the line as he showed you today? Absolutely yes. Jerome Baker played pretty similarly in that respect a little bit. It's almost like Julian Luz, a little bit more brighter, shining a little bit, but Jenkins was good next to him. Linebacking core, same way, where Dotson was the one that was really showing up flashing, and he had a near pick and he had a nice big hit. But Baker was steady and strong and good right there with him. Your cornerbacks also held up their end of the bargain. Tariq Woolen was sensational in this game, start to finish. Tight there in coverage on Cortland Sutton, there to make a play on the ball if the quarterback did dare throw his way. Had one missed tackle in this game, but overall I think he was pretty sound in that department of things. And he had a real splash play in this game, maybe one of the big major plays in this game to help kind of seal this thing out, where he's in off coverage pre-snap. So it's looking like to Bo Nix pre-snap that he's in cover 3 and he's going to bail drop post-snap. Now Nix, with the receiver that's on him there, is going to be running an over route. So from Nix's standpoint, he's thinking, okay, my over route's going to get all the way across the field. You're going to drop to depth. My guy's probably going to be open. And if you look at that play and go, man, it almost looks like he's throwing into triple coverage there. Well, he's not anticipating that Woolen's going to have the makeup speed to catch all the way back up on that over route and then jump in front of the route. But as we saw a couple of years ago in that Detroit game in Detroit, where again you had Woolen aligned in off coverage, it's man match like this play is, where it's not pure cover 3, it's man match cover 3, where if that route as an over route hits, you can drive on the route if you can recognize it. Woolen recognizes it, drives on the route, and he's got that 4.2 speed to make up like he did on that day in Detroit to get up there and not only make a play on the ball, to go make the catch. That play he was able to pick 6 it. This play, again, he was able to jump easily up in front of it. That's something that he can replicate over and over again because quarterbacks will always think that play is going to naturally be open, that there's not a player who's got that much speed to catch up to that guy on that particular play. Witherspoon was also very solid. He was also very tight in coverage. He had a play on a ball where it was very close, where he might have been almost able to get his hands in there to go make a play on 1-2. He was good as a blitzer in this game. Had one moment where McDonald dialed it up just at the perfect moment. He's blitzing off the edge, unblocked. He's got a dead right, straight path right there to Nix, and Nix is able to just run outside of his outside shoulder, shows some of the escapability of Nix, some of the legs of Nix. But Witherspoon played a really good game again. Brown was pretty good overall. He did give up one catch down the sidelines, but he had another play later on in the game where he came back in and he was able to knock the ball free. Maybe got away with a little bit of a hold on that play, just, maybe a little one. But hey, he was solid overall as well. So defense, man-to-man, end-to-end, which guy do you want to pick at here? All of them, to me, felt like they played a pretty solid game. And you could, kind of highlight any one of them if you wanted to, and you could find a variety of plays where you're like, wow, he played some really good ball. They were just on it today. I'm not going to lie to you. This was a little bit of a rough day from Gino and the boys. They did find their footing eventually, and that's what matters. You were able to put the points on enough to go win the game. That's what matters. It was a rough start, though. Right out the gate, early pressure. He gets sacked. He comes back, throws an interception in his own territory. A little bit of odd play calling by new offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb. Now, look, this is his first stint here at the NFL level. He's making the transition from college to the NFL. Some of the growing pains I think we were expecting that we were going to see from McDonald's defense, we were in actuality kind of seeing from, I think, Grubb. Felt like he got a little bit more too into that. We're going to try to take some deeper shots down the field to start things off, as opposed to maybe let's get in rhythm, let's work a little bit of the ground game in. And the offense through the first couple of possessions just looked completely lost. Pass protection was falling apart. They were at times put on a short field. They had a safety on a play that was a very strange play called by Brian Grubb there. So when you have a quarterback there in the end zone, if you're going to call a pass play from an offensive coordinator standpoint, you want to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand as fast as possible, because if there's a holding call in the end zone, as we saw, it's a safety. So you have him run a sprint option to the left with Geno Smith there, and Geno then patty cakes the ball for a little while, and that allows for the holding call to take place. Now, many of you are going to go beat up on Bradford there, and I'm not saying that was a great rep from Bradford, but there's a reason there that as an offensive coordinator, you want to get the ball out of the QB's hands if you're going to do that. This is why many offensive coordinators will go just to a run there, even if it's just 2 yards in a cloud of dust, because at least you're just getting a little bit of breathing space to get yourself up the field. But the offense throughout the whole pretty much first half, absent a couple drives here or there, just had nothing really working or really going, and there was just no rhythm to it. You could just see Grubb couldn't kind of find himself, maybe a little bit too pass heavy. Certainly Geno was not comfortable back there with what he was doing. He was under an onslaught of pressure. You lost here George Fant early in this game at the right tackle position. Stone was out there. He had some up and down moments. Like, and Tomlinson got dusted in particular back there in that same end zone area when they were lined up again deep. So there were some brutal moments from your offensive line in this game, but some of that to me also goes in tandem with the play calling here, where Grubb was trying to at times in the early in that game push too much down the field, as opposed to get him in rhythm, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. A lot of what Grubb did at UW was, yes, push the ball down the field, but that was intermixed with him getting the ball out of Penix's hands and letting Penix just be a distributor at times. And there wasn't as much of that early in the game. Luckily, they got into the second half. They made some halftime adjustments, recalibrated things, got back to the running game, and then you really felt Grubb leaning in on that running game once he sensed it was working, not getting away from it. There was one moment in particular in this second half where you'd run well, you're deep down on that drive, first down run, nothing. It's 2nd and 10. Many offensive coordinators, I think, in that moment then go, okay, let's go back to the pass here. He stayed with the run. I think they got a 7 or 8 yard gain off the back of that, just kept going with it, kept trusting his running back, and Walker rewarded him from it. I've said Kenneth Walker can be a guy, go get you 1,500 yards total, and he showed you why in this game. He is dynamic a back, I think, as you find in this league, at breaking tackles in the open field. He can create his own thing. You look at the difference between him and Charbonnet not able to get around this early penetration, whereas with Walker, he can get around the early penetration and still go get you a real plus play. Now, Charbonnet's got his own talent too. It's not that Charbonnet's a bad running back. It's more about how good Walker is as a player. He had a little bit of an abdominal injury later on in this game, went over 100 yards here, helped with a touchdown ceiling run. You really got to see that acceleration and speed from him today, but also his creativity as a runner and why he is so special. We need this guy healthy. We need him rocking and rolling. He was a big part of what helped to get this offense back onto the rails a little bit, as once you start to run the ball, then you're able to pass a little bit more there with Geno, and he was able to find some spots. Geno didn't play necessarily his greatest game here. 18 of 25, 171 yards, a touchdown, an interception. It is hard to play the quarterback position when you're under sometimes as much of an onslaught of pressure as Geno often is. I would love to have seen that a little more cleaned up in this opening game from where we've seen it prior, but if you are going to see it, you're going to be asking a lot of a quarterback to be playing at a real high level when he's under that much of an avalanche from a variety of different areas at that. It ain't just this one bad guy here. It's like this guy decides on this play for it to be bad. Now it's this guy's going to decide to be bad. And it just gets a little bit rough as far as that goes. I thought Geno did okay, all things being equal on this, I guess, or however you want to put that. But he was able to hold the line and kind of find his footing until he could get to his rhythm point. And once he got his rhythm point, he made some really good throws in this game. A couple of back shoulder throws to Tyler Lockett that were great, right on the spot, perfect throws. You see some of the chemistry between two guys who have been throwing with each other for years now. This rises to the surface a little bit in these kind of games on some of those throws that are so pinpoint, where Geno's almost putting it to Tyler, where Tyler's just got to throw out his hands and the catch is there to be had. Now, Tyler had a Renaissance type Tyler Lockett game. You saw still the big playability is indeed there. Contested catches? What, Tyler? But then Tyler came back with the biggest catch of this game, the biggest play of this game, maybe when it's all said and done. Hawks are trying to close this game out, nearing the end of this. He's running this little cross route thing. He's opened up there. Geno throws in the ball. Geno puts it a little too far out front. He's got to reach out, pulls it in with one hand, is able to reach it in and pull in the second hand to make a one-handed catch with a game on the line, because you make that conversion, it's game over right now. Such a big play, such a big moment from Tyler Lockett. We've seen this before. The man's been here for 10 years. We've seen it many a time. It's still not surprising, but great to see. Tyler Lockett still looks like he's got a little bit of gas left in that tank. So receivers, for the most part, did okay in this game. Lockett definitely led the way. DK Metcalf had a bit of, I think, a tough day there against Surtain. He had a drop in the opening throw off the opening drive where he just couldn't reel it in and didn't really do a good job of, making it. Well, Surtain pulled the ball out. It just bounced off his hands. That's the type of, drop pass that gets a lot of the DK, anti-DK folks up in arms there. DK also had a couple of penalties in this game that, again, will feed more to those folks as well, where they're going to stand up. And these are a small contingent of folks, but they can tend to be loud in regards to their disfaction with DK when he doesn't do things the way they want to see him do it. I thought the holding call on DK down by the goal line was ticky-tack. He got his hands inside. He's blocking correctly. You can see that kind of play from a variety of offensive linemen, how they block on a given play, play in and play out in this sport. It's very arbitrary as to whether or not it gets called. I didn't see the second one on what I think is the pick play, rub route. I'd have to see on that, but it does seem like the officials have a little bit of almost overhanded or heavy-handed targeting of DK at this point. I understand you don't want him dirting people up. You don't want him turning people into fertilizer after a play's over with. But at the same point in time, if he's blocking within the context of the rules, I don't get the reason of them having the sensitive flags on that type of stuff, especially for a play like that didn't impact the play. But DK didn't get a lot of opportunities. He did the most of what he could for outside of that drop. 3 catches, 29 yards, just wasn't targeted a whole lot. Charbonnet wasn't able to get anything done as far as on the ground, but made a nice catch on a wheel route up the field on a really well-run route. This is a place where Charbonnet's you can't get him worked in as a running back in between the tackles. If you're just seeing there's too much early penetration, you can always go back to using him out of the backfield. He showed that he had that last year. He showed that he had that at UCLA. So that's still a skill that he really does, I think, bring to the table that is useful to this team, as he showed there on that play. Big play in that moment. Gino also had the big scramble there up the football field. So it was really about the big plays as much from what Gino was able to provide today on a day where struggling to find maybe his best fastball or his best location. The Broncos ran a lot of those blitzes that gave us problems last year, a lot of those stack fronts that basically Mike McDonald showed to the NFL world that we would struggle with. They brought that and they implemented that in full here today. And that's where we're going to have to find an answer as we go forward to the Patriots next week, because they're going to run a lot of these stack boxes and a lot of these stack fronts. How are you going to counter that, Grubb? What is going to be the way that you're going to be able to keep them from pinning their ears back at times? Because we can see that it can be a struggle, especially when we have backup offensive linemen in there. I did think Connor Williams and Charles Cross did pretty good on that line. The other guys, maybe a little bit more of a mixed bag. Bradford, good as a run blocker, not as good in pass protection, and the other two guys up and down. I'm not sure what Laken Tomlinson's doing at this point to be the starter there at left guard for you over Haynes, but I don't know if he's going to last particularly long if he puts more of these performances out there on the football field. Dixon and Myers were great in this game. Those guys did exactly what you'd hope they'd do. Dixon on a couple of times had to flip the field for you on the field possession side of it, and he was able to do that. Williams, the returner. I don't know why punt returning has got to be a yearly problem for us. It's like the offensive line, just yearly, here we go. Strap on in. Make sure your seatbelts are securely fastened, because this guy is going to be a wild ride this year. I can already tell. When you get into football and they tell you, you see a fumble on the turf, receiver, running back, quarterback, doesn't matter how frequently you handle the ball. You are taught from the earliest of ages to jump on the ball. They even show you a technique, a whole slide roll technique, so that you don't just fall on the ball and get yourself breaking your ribs. They've got a whole technique for how you're supposed to do it. They say, don't pick up the ball. Doesn't do anybody good. Don't try to pick up the ball. So you have the punt returner sitting there. He starts to look at the guy coming before he actually receives the punt. Okay, I get it. That's going to happen. Mistakes will be made. Muff punt, not a big deal. But now you fall on it. Instead, tries to fumble at it and pick it up. Can't pick it up, greases up out of his hands. The defense ends up getting it back. It's just a horrible play in this football game and unnecessary. I don't know, these punt returners, DJ Dallas did the same thing for us last year with this. Just fall on the ball. No more trying to pick it up. And this is such a silly thing that's taught at such a low level of the sport. This is ingrained in their brain. The fact that they can't, as a pro in this moment, they have decided to have a brain fart there. Well, I will pick it up. And then what are you going to do? Get smashed. You're going to get Hulk smashed the second you pick it up, because your eyes are now down, not looking at the defenders. And as soon as you look up, they're going to go like this to you. And so horrible play there. But then throughout the rest of the game with Williams, then he just decided he wasn't going to field anything through the rest of this game. And he's letting the ball bounce at the 7-yard line and give the Broncos a really good chance, if it bounces right, to down the ball then deep in the territory for the Seahawks. He did it a couple times over. He does not look comfortable back there doing this duty. And it's kind of concerning, because he's not really on the roster to do anything but punt return. These guys don't get much as far as punt return yardage anymore. There's not as many guys housing it as they once did. They don't have as high a punt return yardage. The punters have gotten too good. You've got to catch and secure the ball. That is your one job. Don't let the ball bounce, secure it, and catch it. And that you can't do that one little tiny small thing And that's your one specific thing to do on this roster is really disconcerting at this point. And I hope to God that we're not on this ride with Williams for the whole rest of the year in this way, or it's going to get brutal. Because by the second half late into it, you were just having to kind of look away on punts and hope they didn't hold it there at the 2-yard line, because he did not look like he wanted any part of catching it at that point. Like I said, though, the rest of the special teams held up their end of the bargain on that side of it. The units, as far as coverage units go, were really good. Derek Young made a great play as a gunner on a play where Dixon was flipping the field, and he had to kind of kick the ball at a low trajectory rather than get the height on there. The punt returner looked like he had some room to get back, and Derek was able to make a great tackle on the play. As you can see, Derek Young, that's part of why he made this roster, is he does bring that angle of things, and still got some upside as a receiver, but great play there in that moment, big time play in that moment. It was a knockdown, drag out, barroom fight. Elbows and knees, broken bottles, and switchblade knives. Your Seahawks came out the other end of it with the win, and that's all that matters. There's no such thing as style points in the NFL. Wins and losses, that's going to determine who gets in and who doesn't when we get to the end of the season. We'll learn with time if new head coach Mike Macdonald is the man to lead this team back to the promised land. But that was a damn fine opening statement, and I am jacked to the nines for the potentiality of what this defense is going to bring to bear on the football field on a weekly basis. It's as Devin Witherspoon said to the media just after the game, we haven't even begun to show you the totality here. You're just getting a few little wrinkles. You're just getting a little small window into all we can do, and look how good we already are. So you just wait. You prepare yourself, NFL. The Seahawks are coming, and hell's coming with them. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.